This is the Automotive Repair Podcast Network.
Welcome to another episode of Speak Up Effective Communication, the show on the Automotive Repair Podcast Network focused on elevating our communication and leadership skills. I'm your host, Craig O'Neill, and in our episode today, I'm sitting down for a conversation with Leigh Anne, Gerry Frank, and Bill Hill, and we're talking about communication strategies. Look, this was actually recorded as a webinar with my team at AutoFlow, and it became very apparent that this conversation is perfect for this audience too. So what you will hear now is actually a recorded webinar of my conversation with these fine guests. The title of the webinar was Making Good Advisors Great. And some of the topics that we discuss is the balance between concise and relational communication, and why too much of either one of those costs you sales. And then there's a one yellow at a time approach to inspections that I thought was really helpful to take some of the frustration that comes from too many recommendations on a single visit, as happens on an aging fleet in this country. And then also we talk a little bit about team meetings and building that team consistency. And really importantly, we talk about whether your advisor knows what their ARO is and if it's even a wrong thing to ask them to track. I don't think it is, and neither do our guests. Find out more as we listen to this conversation. I did pick a word of the day after our conversation, and that word is consistency. That is a noun, and it means the quality of always behaving or performing in the same way, or of holding firmly together as a whole. It means steadiness or practice or standard over time. And I think consistency is exactly the word that you're going to hear throughout our conversation in this webinar, which will play for you after we hear a word from our sponsors who make this show possible. Hey friends, as you know, I'm a proud member of the AutoFlow team, and let me tell you, we've changed how business is done for auto shops everywhere. We support your client experience before, during, and after the work is done. Imagine this: timely updates sent directly to your clients, branded digital vehicle inspections, and seamless communication from start to finish. That's why shops love AutoFlow. And hey, with those 5-star reviews rolling in, you'll wonder how you ever managed without us. Take an important next step and take your auto shop to the next level. Visit www.autoflow.com. Get on board with an AutoFlow trial. Want to see your auto repair shop thrive? Are you looking to drive more customers to your auto repair shop? Let ShopDog Marketing be your guide. Our customer-first approach, combined with AI-driven creative content, ensures top rankings. Dominate mobile first and voice search with our specialized expertise. Reach out to ShopDog Marketing today and start growing your business. Don't miss out on this chance to boost your business. Visit shopdogmarketing.com. Inbound has exclusively served independent auto repair shops with expert communication solutions for years. Our robust VoIP platform ensures you stay connected while our industry-leading AI analytics take your business to the next level. We provide the tools you need to understand your customers and optimize every interaction. Choose Inbound for proven expertise and unmatched innovation. Visit callinbound.com and discover the difference we can make. What if you knew exactly what to say to the price shopper, the upset customer, the person who says they cannot afford it? Every day, service advisors lose customers not because of bad service, but because of the wrong words at the wrong moment. Words That Work is a free phone scripts playbook built for auto service professionals. Every script includes the reasoning behind it, so you understand not just what to say, but why it works. Grab your free copy at serviceadvisortraining.com. Advanced Shop Leadership's 20 groups are built around one idea. Shop owners grow faster when they're surrounded by the right people. George Kingman has created a community where accountability is real. The conversations go deep, and members are finding something that's hard to come by in this industry: real balance between the shop and the rest of their life. If you're a motivated shop owner with high standards who's ready to do this alongside people who get it, find out if ASL is the right fit for you at asl.coach. Hello and welcome to another webinar here with our team at AutoFlow, but we have some very special guests today from serviceadvisortraining.com. Thank you so much for joining me, Gerry Frank, Bill Hill, and Leigh Anne Best. Really great to have you. I've been excited to have this conversation for the last several weeks as we've been putting this together. I'm so glad you could join us. And thank you all of the attendees for joining us. You will find the, I hope now, familiar comment section down there. Feel free to say hello. Feel free to ask questions. This panel is so good. You're going to see this very quickly. We have not just wise trainers in our industry, but we have people that have come up in the industry as well. And this is why I've been so excited to have this. We don't do this too often. We have other shop folk come in here to dive into these processes. It seems like we've always been in software or we've been in the training circuits or anything else. And we just bring in some of the collective wisdom now that is still being practiced in your shop. So Gerry, Bill, Anne, I want to ask each of you just briefly introduce yourself here for our audience. Gerry, why don't we start with you?
All right. Hey, well, thank you, Craig, and super glad to be here. My name is Gerry Frank. First of all, I was a shop owner for, 35 plus years. I've got the gray hair and bruised knuckles to prove it. I'm the co-founder of Maverick Shop Owners, where we work one-on-one with clients. And also, I learned a long time ago, you may be able to teach the owner, but if you can't work with their employees, it doesn't stick. That's the whole thing. They have that cohesive team. So we formed serviceadvisortraining.com, where we work with the service advisors and customer service reps to increase their profitability. But more importantly, I think their whole level of customer service, happy customers.
Yeah, I love that the URL for your website is very easy to remember with the name.
Yes. Done
Very
with
good.
purpose.
Absolutely. No, thanks so much, Gerry. It's been really great to get to hear some of your perspective more. So, Bill, why don't we jump to you next?
Well, I own a 17-bay, 10,000 square foot shop in Medina, Ohio. It's about 25 miles south of the Cleveland area. Been there for 27 years. We do everything with the most complete auto repair shop in our area. We also are the largest independent shop in our area. And I have never, funny, I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, I've never worked in a small shop that only had 6 or 7 bays. Every shop I've ever worked in at least had 15 to 20, right? So it's been an experience. And the greatest thing about being able to do that is Leigh Anne and I joke all the time, if we ever decided to retire, we just buy a 5-bay shop because we could do 5 bays sleeping, right?
Yeah.
And Bill, you're pretty modest because Bill's won like more awards than I got fingers and digits here. Tons, from Ratchet and Wrench magazine to Wix to Shop Owner of the Year. And take a step in Mighty Auto Pro and just look around at all of the awards and positive acclamations Bill's had. So
It's such a great name for a shop. I just realized it's pronounced Medina, not Medina. So,
Yeah.
That's okay.
I won't add to what Gerry said is, I'm maybe the figurehead, but my staff is the key, right? They make it all happen, and they're the reason that we're so successful.
Brilliant. Well stated. And Leigh Anne Best, I think that one thing I want to introduce before you introduce yourself, Leigh Anne, is like a lot of you may not know Leigh Anne, but you have probably heard of Brakes for Breasts. And Leigh Anne, you are one of the co-founders of that awesome program.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Craig. We started Brakes for Breasts in 2011, myself and Laura Frank, Gerry's beautiful bride. And thanks to the support of our industry, have raised over $2 million. Other than that, in my full-time job, I work as the marketing director for Mighty Auto Pro. I've been working aside Bill for over 20 years. And my specialty area is truly customer service and phone training. And I have trained hundreds of shops across the United States to answer that phone properly and have the exceptional customer service to get that customer to not be a one and done, but to keep coming back for more. So a lot of fun. We have a great time.
Oh, it's great. And I love your focus in this industry too, with my podcast with Carm Capriato's Network on the Automotive Repair Podcast Network. I keep still wanting to go to ARN days. The Automotive Repair Podcast Network, ARPN, new app on that as well. What we speak up about communication skills. And look, like this is one of those things where I love, like we all settled on this title here, making good advisors great. And this is the point. Like a lot of people come in with some very strong latent abilities and can connect very well, but there's still professional development that occurs. And that, I believe, is what separates the good from the great, as we will discuss through our conversation now. So let's dive in. And just to give some framing to this, where we're going to talk this conversation through, this is a conversation with an expert panel. I just want the experience for each of our guests today to really shine on this. These are some of the points that we're going to move through. And I think they're fair to say, like, there's often gaps between individuals in our teams. Getting everyone to perform at the same level is like this ongoing challenge. I think, Bill, like you stated, this grace, our team is absolutely the reason for our success. And part of that is continuing to develop the team. And we're going to talk about that and why some other things are a little bit harder to track or aren't tracked, or some of that. And then all this balance that goes in here too. This will all be fun. But first, we always start with this with our polls here at AutoFlow. This is your first time doing this with me, guys, but I always like to take the responses that we had from the registrations to a key question. And this was one of those questions that while we were discussing this webinar topic, Leigh Anne, I believe you brought this up. Do the advisors in your shop know their individual average repair order?
Absolutely. This is a passion point for me, Craig. I mean, twofold, two reasons. Number one, I can't tell you how many times we interview a service advisor and we ask them what their average RO is and they have no idea. Huh. And the second part is just through our coaching and whatnot, it is incredible us early on in the coaching process for the service advisor, how many of them, when you ask the question just off the cuff, absolutely do not know the answer. And if you don't know what it is, how do you improve upon it? Or worse yet, they don't know what it's supposed to be. So this is truly a passion of mine. If you don't understand how to, if you don't know the roadmap, you're not going to get there.
One of the things, I'm a numbers guy, and that may or may not come out during today's.
I hope it comes out.
Yeah, but when you showed that slide, $100 average repair order, I mean, people look at that $100. A well-trained service advisor easily should be able to increase their average repair order $100. But the $100 to me looks like a really small number. But when I look at that, go ahead and take that $100 if you're a shop owner and you have any idea, how many cars you do a week. So maybe you do 40. Go ahead and do the math. That $100 could easily be $200,000, $300,000 at the end of the year. So annually, I'm talking about. So, I mean, don't make light of that. If you pick up just a couple of nuggets today that can help you increase your average repair order from good to great, think of the difference that might make.
There's two things that I just like to, in my head, I want to talk about. And the first thing is, so we're talking about $200,000, right? So I do about 4,100 cars a year. And my service advisors split those cars even in odd numbers, right? So if I have my one service advisor is $100 less, then that's $200,000 if it's 2,000 cars, right? That's a lot of money. And that goes almost all of it goes, 60% of it goes right to the bottom line. And the second part of it is what I thought was amazing about the figure that you showed. Can you imagine 40% of the people who work for somebody else don't have any idea what their average RO is, and much less knowing what is expected of them by the owner?
Yeah. And one of the things I want to bring in a question that I've had when I've been talking in front of groups, you mentioned ARO sometimes, and people think, okay, average repair order. Is that a metric even worth tracking? Does it mean anything? Is there weaknesses to this number? And I know you guys well enough to know you're not saying this is like a be all end all metric that should be X, Y, Z or anything else. It's just a number that if you track, it establishes a baseline of consistency that someone is hitting at. And the highs and lows balance each other out. That's why it's an average. It's not an evil number to track. It's not
the greatest number to track, obviously, is gross profit dollars. But average repair order is just one kind of component of that. And I think we'll talk about it throughout today's recording, but I really think about the key thing about if, hey, okay, I want to increase my average repair order. And I think not knowing that, if you're a service advisor who doesn't know that, that might be a leadership problem, starting at the top. You got to track that. I know my advisors would I'd fill out a sheet, or I would supply them with a weekly tracking sheet. And it had, half a dozen of key performance indicators on it. And they would fill it out. They would write it down. That way they know it, snap a picture of it, and send it to me every single day. You think about a professional sports team. I don't care. I'm a diehard Browns fan, so now everybody could say, "Oh, you poor thing." I know. But, you think about any professional sports team, there's a scoreboard in everything. And one of the important numbers in that scorecard for this conversation is certainly your average repair order.
Yeah, and it's not to say there's not other important numbers. This is just something there. And I try to help people track things, like getting leaders on teams to begin to understand and track key performance indicators, those KPIs. It isn't like you could take a dark turn. It's like, oh, shame on you, advisor number one, for having $100 lower ARO. There is a defect in you, and therefore we're going to now address that. This is where you're at. And why it's at this, and is it changeable, and is there betterment that's going to come through? It's all constructive things. It's just about improving something. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to raise prices. It doesn't. Maybe it does, but yeah, there's lots to it.
Well, if all things are equal, when you have $100 difference, it tells you there's a problem there, right? And that problem, without question, is training. And I look at it from the point of view, as a technician, you're giving them the what. It needs a battery, it needs air conditioning, it needs a tie rod, right? But as a service advisor, the why is your purpose to explain to your customer why you need that. And our job is to help you understand why you need that. And our also job is to help you sell it to the customer as to why they need it, right? Mm-hmm. So giving the explanation as to why, and then educating the client in what the negatives are if you don't do that repair.
Yeah, one of the things I use ARO all the time, our audience has heard me talk about this before. The AROs I look at are twofold. I look at the shop's just average across the board, and then I look at the shop's average for tickets that had viewed inspections, digital inspections. And why I do that is because that absolutely tells me on the performance of an advisor, how successful they are about guiding a client to open the inspections, number one. And then if the improvement is there, as it typically is, for viewed tickets that had a viewed DVI, it means that the service advisor is leveraging inspection results in a conversation. It doesn't tell me how well they did in the conversation. I'm not looking at phone call recordings from where I sit, at least. But it's a good metric to know if the DVI is making its way into that conversation. And I find that it's almost always true in any shop I look at. If the ticket had a view DVI, they have a higher ARO. And that's a skill of the advisor to set expectations, to open it, and to then use it in that conversation. So
absolutely
valuable number. I think I consider that lead measures, right? You want to influence things. There's certain behaviors that lead to that higher average repair order. Mm-hmm. The easiest example I can say, I'm always trying to drop a few pounds. If I try to work on my lead behaviors, like, count calories, I know that if I count calories and stay under, say, 1,800, 1,700 calories a day, watch my carbohydrates, don't eat the junk food, those are the lead measures. I know it's not a guess. I know when I step on that scale over time, my weight is going to be moving in the proper direction. And it's the same thing, Craig, like you mentioned, so many of us, we all do digital inspections, or everybody raise their hand, everybody's hand's going to go up, but how many of them are doing it well? Sharing that inspection with the customer, reviewing it, going over it. One of my things that I feel really strongly about is being in this industry for 35 years. It's changed a lot. And I would say for the better. When I first started in this industry, there were a lot of salespeople, service advisors persuading customers. Last person that speaks loses, all of these different things. Today, I believe there's no selling and sales. What we do is we inform the customer, give them all the information they need, and when presented in the proper way, it leads to the right decision. The customer is buying. We're no longer selling.
It puts the advising and counseling description into our titles, right? It's in the title. Service advisor. Yeah. Service seller, not the title.
No.
Nice. So let's look at ARO in terms of how it looks across the industry. You guys pulled this from Parmelis and Associates, Hunt Demarest, also a host on Carm's Network as well. These are interesting numbers. I thought this was kind of funny for me because our shop we broke the measures being a transmission specialty. And so I always like to remind people that tire stores too, different types of shops have different types of metrics on these. If you try to benchmark yourself against one of these, let's look at it as just an average here. And I think that they put this together pretty well. Top 10% of shops average repair order around 729. Based on what I see, I think that's absolutely true. I have some good insights with our clientele as well. And that split on labor, gross profit, all this stuff versus the bottom 10. I guess my question for you guys is, we're going to talk more about like training between individuals, but in terms of the shops that are seeing these differences at the service level, someone might look at it as, it's not that big. I think, Bill, you already hit on this too. That adds up over time.
It does.
Sure does.
I think that, most of the shops, when you look at the top 10% and the bottom 10%, what's the biggest difference, right? So you can go, there's so many different things, but the top three that always enter my head, DVI inspections, are we sharing them? Are we explaining them to the customers? Number two, are we getting the proper training, right? Everybody can understand. I tell my staff all the time when we talk about DVI inspections, make sure that picture is great, because that picture is 1,000 words. That means I'm speaking that much less and selling that much more, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's important that we always, get that information across to our staff. Is just a blurry picture is not a good picture, right? And that's what we use the annotations for. I love that word, by the way. It's just one of those things where if you can get that picture dialed in, get the annotation there, and that customer has oil leak and you've got it all dialed in for him, his eyes go right to that spot. We don't have to say it's next to this or near that. And it just helps move everything along, and the customer can physically see it. Now there's no guesswork. It's there. We're talking about it. You can see it. And that's what DVIs give us.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And I totally agree with that. One of the problems, I think DVIs and pictures are wonderful. Now, it's easy for me because I have literally no understanding of anything about cars. But if I'm looking at a picture and I see a picture of a clean air filter against mine, then I get what I'm supposed to be seeing. I get how dirty my air filter is. If I have examples, if somebody tells me I have 3 centimeters as brake life left, what does it even mean? So, all of that is so critical. Pictures are great, but not if they're understood. The average person doesn't know what they're looking at.
I learned that the hard way. I had a private jet pilot who was a good customer on transmission work, and he was kind of like one of those guys that just kind of a key tosser a little bit. He came in and he said, "Hey, Craig, normally I do my own brakes, but I don't have time, so I'd like you guys to do them." And so I got it all quoted out. I sent him a picture of his wiped out rotors, and then I sent him the DVI. I called him up, told him what the price was, when it's going to be in, made sure I had the approval, and he said to me, "Let's not do the rotors. Let's just do the pads on that thing. These rotors are like chewed up." And my picture in those days, it just said brakes. I wasn't using annotations yet, and it took a while. But in the phone call conversation, where basically like this mini argument, it's like, dude, I can't reuse rotors from the like this. You're going to hate me, right? Like, it's a polite argument, but it's an argument now. But what it just dawned on me is like, man, we're not talking about the same thing. I need you to open that inspection again and take a look at that picture I put in there of your rotors. And he said, what I'll never forget, "Oh, those are the rotors. I was picturing something else." This guy who was going to do his own brakes but didn't have the time. This story was an early DVI experience for me. And that's where it's like, click. I've been talking a lot to people and expecting them, because they're nodding in agreement, that they are actually nodding and understanding, and they pretend to understand. They pretend. Oh, that was just the glass shatter moment. Like, you could hear it break, and like, oh, wow. Need to annotate. Yeah, it's huge. Let's talk about this. The 2 advisor story specifically. Bill, I think when we were talking on this came down more specifically, not even annotations or anything that I know of. There's a communication style that you were observing here.
Correct. So service advisor number 2 is very deliberate. It gets to the point. He gets into the DVI inspection. He points somewhere he wants to go. And it's a very quick, concise, informative discussion, right? And he doesn't waste a lot of their time. And I don't know how anybody else is, but if you have me on the phone for more than 4 minutes, I'm hanging up on you, because I don't have that kind of patience, right? And I think most people are like that. So he's very direct, pointed, and he gives the customer, and he talks about everything in the entire inspection. And then we only talk about, we'll say, you got 16 green, you got 9 yellow and the red, whatever the case is. And we always go to the red stuff first because that's what we want to sell. And he's very direct. With service advisor number 2, he wants to be everyone's best friend. If I had to put it on a paper and say, what do you think that's caused by? He doesn't like to tell people bad news. He wants to be their best friend. He wants to make them feel better about what they're doing. He wants to, I guess he just wants to, he wants to feel as bad because they feel bad. He doesn't like telling them all this bad stuff. And about one guy's just giving information and one guy is he's trying to be their best friend, and it's just not a good way to sell.
Well, and I'd like to add on to that. The service advisor with a higher ticket, he has a thought process. He has a plan before he calls the customer. He also is excellent at controlling the phone call. And that's such a key to keeping that call concise, no doubt about it. And then when you look at his average phone call, this is the true telltale sign. He runs about 4 minutes. The other service advisor that isn't selling quite as much is running closer to 17 to 20 minutes. So he's actually speaking less, directing the call, controlling the outcome. And by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he's looking forward to the next day. He's looking at the appointments for the next day. What kind of parts do I have to order? Where the other one obviously spent so much time talking on the phone that he's still trying to get his customers done and trying to get that last phone call in. So it's incredible what a little bit of planning before you make that call can do for you.
I found one of the key things when it comes to selling service, and it's a kind of a mindset, a little shift that I had to make personally is, when you're taking money from a customer, right? When you're presenting that big repair, do you see yourself reaching in their wallet and grabbing for cash? Or do you see yourself providing value, right? Are you taking from or adding to?
Yeah.
Think about that family maybe on the side of the road going on vacation. We're traveling on the highway and you see somebody, with a ball joint collapsed or something like that. And you wonder, man, how could somebody have missed that in that car? So what we do is super important. And I don't think it, like I say, there's no selling in sales. We're just explaining, telling the whole story, giving the customer a ton of information. So I love what Zig Ziglar said years ago in a book I read. He said, timid salespeople have skinny kids. It makes me laugh, but it's true.
That's funny.
So it's a belief thing maybe between the two advisors.
Yeah, well, I feel like there's this constant balance. I think you articulate this really well, all of you, that between not enough and too much. Like I talk about this all the time, and I was like very much one of those advisors that tipped a little too heavy towards the relational side of a conversation deliberately, because that's how I like to communicate. I joke here, we have in the background here, one of our marketing directors here at AutoFlow, Scott Werner's in the background. We joke a lot, like we people from Michigan, we like to talk about the weather for a little while, then kind of get into everything else for a little bit. And that's fun for some people, but not all people. Not all people are like that. There's some concision and brevity that is far more appreciated than an in-depth conversation or even just a surface level conversation like the weather than a lot of people as well. And this is where it's just absolutely important for an advisor to be able to tell what type of person they are interacting with, and that it changes. One guy one day might be more relationally driven and want to connect deeper, and other days life is happening and they need concision and brevity. That's a skill, learning to read those sort of things.
Yep. Read your customer.
Yeah. There's different customer archetypes out there people have talked about for a while. Is this one of those things that came into that conversation? Was that something you were tapping into with your advisor 1, advisor 2 story?
Yeah, I would say so. Would you agree? Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would say one of the things, and I feel like we've done advisor number 1 has come a long way. I mean, he's learning, he's growing. And the biggest thing is, what I feel like is with our service advisor training and the way that we do things, we don't expect anybody to jump $150 overnight, right? We give them all the tools necessary, and we're building the blocks, right? And the blocks aren't just being a good service advisor, it's also being a good customer relation person and knowing about those people. And some of the times I think that one of the problems that he had early on in his career is he was so focused on, because we are focused on building relationships with our customers, and he focused more on that than actually getting into solving the customer's actual problems.
I would also like to point out, however, this gentleman was a former technician that, due to some limitations, was unable to turn wrenches. So he was a technician in our shop that we turned into a service advisor, and he had these numbers pretty early on just by following the systems and procedures we had in place. We took somebody with virtually no service advisor experience, and you see his numbers there. So actually they're pretty outstanding considering his background, where the other service advisor also has 20 years under his belt. So
that's really interesting to me that this is a story. This is not the story I normally hear for when we take a person with a technical background and put them into a service advisor role. That's part of my story as well. I've been to many types of service advisors. I've spent time as the technician and then became that advisor. And I swear, like there's an unschooled version of Craig. If we had recordings of it, I would just be burying my face because it wasn't sales or anything. It was like just abject capitulation on the part of the client. It's like, this is so complicated, just fix the dang thing. And the more common story I hear from technicians, and Brian in our comments there was saying they had recently switched to allowing their techs to write their estimates, and the service advisor deals with the client. They find that, what does he say? We find we don't have to deal with the things the tech ensures our SA doesn't miss, like torque to yield, hardware, et cetera. We experience much higher RO with less issues during the repairs. And it looks like there's a question on this too. Let's pop this on the screen. Are other shops allowing techs to price and source the parts was one of the other questions on there. That's interesting.
I actually know of a few shops that do that. They allow the technicians to build the RO because they know exactly what they're looking for, especially if it's going to be deep, right? We're going to get into head gaskets and intake gaskets and that type of thing, or torque to yield bolts and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of shops that do that. For us, we're kind of lucky because both our service advisors have at one point in time been technicians, so they know all of the things that they should be making sure are going to be there. So we're very blessed by that.
Yeah,
I just want to say one thing about service advisor one. Like Leigh Anne said, he went from a technician to being a service advisor, and just based on the principles of what we do every day, and we've been teaching for 3 years and been teaching for 5 years. It was almost mindless for him to go into that. He actually did much better his first year because he didn't know what he wasn't doing wrong. He had no fear. He just went into it, and his average ticket was much higher by about $117 more than what it is now. And the more he got into it, he started developing some bad habits of just trying to make people feel more comfortable.
Interesting.
This is an interesting slide to me because just recently I had a conversation with one of our members who's looking to expand into more stores. And his superstar service advisor is very technical. Everybody comes to him, and I think he really loves the technical explaining really the crap out of things to a client, right? Instead of
some clients love that.
Yeah. But how do you teach that? It's not replicatable. It's not easy to teach that. I would much rather teach a process. You know, in our service advisor training course, we teach an 8-step sales process. And I guarantee if you follow just those 8 steps, you will have a remarkable rise in your average repair order. It's so hard to replicate that technical side. And I think it's often, you know, Bill, you had mentioned that the one service advisor just recently made the transition to a service advisor from a technician to a service advisor. And I almost think that that's a challenge, because you've got to go from that, you know, the customer doesn't want to know the technical side. Mm-hmm. I always just say kind of, what are the 3 things they really want to know? You know, what is it? What does it do? And what might happen if it fails? And of course, you know, give me the price. How much is it going to cost?
Yeah, that's where it all boils down. But you guys described it as a very specific process. I'm hoping you could walk us through the process that you guys are teaching in a nutshell.
And Leigh Anne has been a huge help with this, but we are very customer service oriented. So, you know, the first step is, you know, again, at the how you answer the phone, how you're going to write the repair order up. All of that matters. The words you use matter. So we start off, you know, kind of right at the beginning, and I try to look at it kind of like a sales cycle. So there again, Leigh Anne, go ahead, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it all starts, well, this says number 1 is check-in. To me, number 1 is the phone call. And our shop is wonderful. Our close rate on phone calls, so opportunity calls, a new customer that's calling in to shop around, we're at 92%. The average shop runs somewhere in the 40s. So the first opportunity is the phone call and saying and doing the correct things to get them in the door. And then the check-in is so important, particularly if they've not been with you before. So we've always gathered enough information on the phone. One of the things we think about is that when a customer calls us, it's because they've carved out the time in their day. They have the time to make the call.
Yes.
So we try to get as much information on their time as possible, right down to, making certain you have all the details. Mr. Smith, they're coming in, they've made the appointment. Do you have a few moments so I can gather some information to expedite your check-in process? And then boom, 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 we knock it out. We can do a new customer call, get them on the books, get all their information within a 3-minute time frame with a good tone, very happy, nice greeting. And then when they walk into the shop, the check-in is super simple. We have a moment or two to set the expectations. Mr. Smith, let me reiterate, your email is smith. That's where we're most likely going to send that 67-point inspection that you can expect a service advisor to call you about once you've received it. Just setting the expectations. What is the best number for us to reach you at a moment's notice? Obviously, we don't want to be sitting around waiting for them to call us back. Do you prefer a call or a text? So the check-in is very important. And all those specific points, every single one of them is letting the customer know that you genuinely care. You want to know how they want to be communicated with. You've taken the time to make that check-in quick. Honestly, Craig, we have 7 loaner vehicles. And if a customer comes in, needs a loaner vehicle, now you think about Sorry, I shouldn't have said. Think about a rental car experience.
Sure.
How long does that take on the average?
Depends. If I'm with my boss, Chris, on a road trip, it takes hours. I don't know what is his bad luck.
But getting that rental car is a good 15, 20 minutes. When you walk into Mighty Auto Pro, we have prepared so well. You are in and out in 5 minutes. You've signed 3 pages of loaner paperwork. We've got your keys. We've run over exactly what you want, how you want to be communicated with. So it's an incredible amount of things that happen in that 5 minutes, but it is all still at a very good pace for the customer. We don't make them feel rushed. It's very informative.
Yeah.
That rental car experience, it just reminds me, recently we were in Florida, and the typical thing, you're going to get your rental car, the line is really long. You just get off a long flight. Most of these parents have screaming kids that want to go to, Disneyland, Disney World, get on with their day. They're hungry, they're cranky, and there you are, stuck in that rental car line for 20 minutes. And the auto repair shop's not much different if you don't do it right.
Yeah, I love that. Billie Jean just made a comment here too. They're a 3-bay shop. They have 3 loaner cars. She says makes such a difference. And so I think that I'm so glad she said that too, because the shop size isn't really an equation in this. It's just a statement that the shop is making. Like, we're here as problem solvers. The problem right now is your transportation. We have transportation solutions. We're in the transportation solution business. It's speaking all of this all the time to the customer. And that's powerful, and that's convenient, and it's unexpected in a world where, let's face it, I think everyone agrees customer service is in a bit of a decline.
Oh my, yes.
It doesn't take much. It takes this much more.
Yes.
It takes this much more to make you fantastic at what you do, right?
Precisely. Yes, just that. And that desire, not only by an advisor or our customer service reps, but by the owner of the business to continue to help our people also strive to be that little bit better. And what a standout that can be. I love the emphasis, Leigh Anne, that you put on that call. When somebody is called in, they had the time to call you. And look what is happening in our world. And software programs are being asked all the time right now to provide features to help them with that case, like AI attendance for when your phone is too busy and all this stuff. And I don't look at it as a missed call. I look at it as a missed opportunity for our staff to connect with a client. And we need to make sure our staff is ready to be able to connect with the client when those calls happen. That's going to be the differentiator. Great to have a fail safe.
Yep.
I get it.
Craig, this brings a great story to mind. So the majority of our customers check in at 8 because it's one of the things we use in our phone trading. We open at 8 a.m. What time should we expect you? And that kind of plants the seed because we like all the cars to get dropped off ASAP. Well, one day in particular, we have 3 customers walking in at the same time. Every single one of them is getting a loaner car. Now, Skylar, our customer service rep, is fantastic, as is Josie, her assistant. Well, I should say customer service rep. So Skylar assesses the situation within 10 seconds. She has 3 clipboards, everybody's motor vehicle paperwork on the clipboard. She's like, if everybody's okay, we're just going to do this in unison to respect everybody's time and get everybody out a little faster today. So all of them are sitting there and she's just giving the directions on the loan, how to, what you have to, okay, just so you know, you're the only one that can drive the loaner vehicle today, blah, blah, blah. Went over that. So all 3 of these people standing there with clipboards, doing their loaner vehicle and her instruction, it was almost like a little school teacher. And they were laughing. They thought it was like the best thing ever because Skylar just has a way with people.
That is so good. Having someone that's reading a room that successfully, and then like that confidence and the comfort that people actually have when they're in a group going through a shared experience. Like, how often does this happen?
Just to kind of put something inside that kind of Leigh Anne glossed over is we are so organized in how we do things and we teach this in our class is that, you know what, you need a loaner tomorrow? We actually send them a text message saying, these are the documents we need. If you text these back to us, we'll have everything in our system. All you'll need to do is sign when you come in.
Yeah, paperwork's filled out. We've got everything we need.
You've done the prep work. Yes, the preparation. This is done ahead of time. Look, like this, my experience in the shop, let me be very, very fair. Like all of us that are listening to this conversation right now, I have spent time where what I created in our shop environment was chaos. And I was reactive. And you know what this feeling is when you get into a reactive mode and the discomfort it is for you and how that gets then mirrored to the client. They're going to feel that discomfort. And if you've ever been in a situation, and I was in this several times, like if a client is asking if you're okay or if this is a good time, you are probably demonstrating in some capacity that you're having a hard time. And that's not a great thing. That's a symptom. And I want you to be aware of this and like hear about what the outcomes could be like from Bill and Leigh Anne's example of when you are prepared for those people to come in. That is so good.
On an earlier call with our coaching group, I'm sorry, but we talked about all of the cost it really is to acquire a new client and how inexpensive it is to retain your existing client. And when you think about all of the different, maybe if you want to call them touch points, a few of them were on the screen there, but it involves many employees, right? From the phone call to the check-in, to the digital inspection, even the parking lot. What does it look like when they pull up? The landscape, all of that, everything speaks when the customer comes in and turns over their hard-earned cash. All of those different things. There's probably 20 or 30 different places or interaction touch points, if you will, with the client. And, if any of those go bad, it's possible you don't get that return customer back. I got to tell you, as a shop owner for 35 years and now being on the opposite end of it, bring my vehicle into Bill and Leigh Anne's shop several times for service and things like that. It's amazing to see the level of customer service that they hit. You want to talk about ringing the excellence bar? They certainly do it.
Thank you. That's kind. And just the other 2, 3, and 4, just so I want to touch base because I don't want to get away from it. One of the things we do is once we get the estimate, the service advisor gets the estimate, he builds gets the EVI, then he builds all the estimates, and then we ship that off to the customer. Our sharing rate is 98%.
Excellent.
Right? And I can tell you how many times I talk to people and say, oh, it's 32%, 31%.
Oh, it's all the time. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I could show you stats right now that would boggle your mind. Like they're doing almost 100% DVIs and the send rate's 38% or somewhere around there or lower in some cases. Like, what are you doing?
We encourage our customers to hold on to them. And, again, telling a short story, I had to be a service advisor, I don't know, it was about 8 or 9 months ago. And so customer comes in, EVI inspection, call them, sell them the job. And apparently, somehow I forgot to send him the inspection. The next day he's on the phone with me. Where's my inspection? I always get an inspection. I didn't get an inspection this time. Where's my inspection? You train your customers to expect that EVI.
This is the best form of accountability. And look, teams see turnover sometimes. And so when a team was really good at a process and a new person comes in and maybe they don't believe in it yet, or they think it was silly, or who knows what they're carrying in. But when the client demands something that they loved, there's a motivator right there. I love it.
Oh yeah, definitely. No question.
Yeah. And that happens once you've trained your clients to expect that sort of thing. This becomes an expectation. Chris Cloutier and I, we talk about this all the time when we present on the matter. We use a Kano model. It's a delighter to receive a digital inspection or something else. And then they go to another shop and they don't get that. Guess what? They're coming right back to you.
Right.
And that retention element is so key. I love that we mentioned retention too, Gerry, because like that for me, like if there was one metric I would look at for an advisor is like, do the people that they engage with come back again?
Right.
I always love that one. Yeah. Now let's talk a little bit more on inspections, because look, there is some hardship. Some advisors, they feel a little heartburn. Inspections let's just be real clear with it. Like there are entities out there that have used inspections for ill, and they have been a sales gimmick in the past. And that is a misfortune that I have to overcome all the time. And especially when it comes to selling maintenance. I remember, Bill, we were talking about this early on. You had a really simple approach to this. It can be overwhelming if there's a lot of maintenance items on people as they stack. They inevitably do. We have another slide somewhere buried in here on the average age of a vehicle now. It's up.
Yeah, it is what. And based on what I saw this morning, it's going to continue to be up there because used cars are gone up again, right? I heard this morning the average used car is now $41,000. Anyway, one of the things that, if you go back and you look at your inspections on a regular basis, which I do because I audit my inspections a lot with my staff, I'll go back and I'll see we've got yellow. Last time it was here, we told them we need a brake fluid flush, transmission fluid flush, and there's all of these things. I can go back 2 or 3 or 4 times they've been here and they're all yellow. So about 6 or 8 months ago, what I started teaching my staff was, listen, car comes in for, I'm just going to make it simple, brake job. We did front pads, front rotors, rear pads, rear rotors, and we recommended brake fluid flush for the last 3 times it's been in here. Now what we say to them is, listen, you've got all this other maintenance you need to do. Why don't we knock out that brake fluid flush while it's here, right? And maybe we should do the power steering flush at the same time. I call it the +1. And it takes that average ticket up somewhere between $175 to $225 almost every single time. And how I approach it to the customer is the next time you come in, we'll knock out 1 or 2 more of those things. And before you know it, you'll be right up to where you need to be. Car's back in total maintenance. And what's our goal? Our goal is to keep this car on the road as long as we possibly can, right? Just ask the question. So
that's nice. It helps them catch up without it being overwhelming. Right. Yeah, when we're throwing too much at once, and then it feels like this is where I feel like advisors run into some discomfort. They feel like they're adding pressure. Like our propensity in this industry is to try to pat ourselves on the back and tell people, you can get by with it. Right. We are overcoming the other stigma, which is just constantly the fear that clients state. 2/3 of people will feel that their number one fear is that auto repair shops are going to upsell them something that they don't need. And upsell is a dirty word, both with Carm and his RISE language. Those of you are listeners on the Automotive Repair Podcast Network understand this. Like we don't use the word upsell. These are recommendations that we can advise and counsel on. You guys have terminology used on this. I love this 1 yellow at a time concept because it isn't like, hey guys, upsell the maintenance items. It's a little more simple.
Clearly, it's the benefit for the customer. That's the way that I look at it, and that's the way I train my staff to look at it, right? And the second line here is 1 through 10 severity. What we get to do is we all get together, technicians get together, once or twice a year, myself, service advisors, and we'll get a car up in the year, and we know it's got a bad tie rod, we know it's got bad struts or something, and we'll say, okay, we're going to look at this. Nobody tell the number what they think. What's wrong? What's your number in your head? Scale of 1 to 10, 1 being new, 10 is ready to fall out. So everyone keeps a number in their head, and then we say, okay, pick your numbers, and we hear them. And the most common ones, let's just say it's 5. Why do you think it's a 5? And what that does is it bonds your technicians to all start thinking the same way.
Nice. Instead of just green, yellow, red, they have another scale within that for the help of the recommendations for severity. I think that's helpful. And this might actually help with a question that Billie Jean put out as well. She asked, do you recommend an estimate being put together on all recommendations for every appointment? This is a really great question.
We do. I don't believe that we should, my opinion, and I know, Gerry and I think a lot of the same ways, is the customer needs to know the total package. They got to see the overall picture. They got to make an educated decision, right? And by me only telling them what I think they need is unfair to them, right? And there's a second part of that. I encourage my customers to have a folder where they put all these DVIs into. What if I don't recommend a transmission fluid flush or a power steering fluid flush this time, but I did the last 2 times before that? What kind of egg do I have in my face?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It got better on its own, I guess.
Yeah, that contamination not there anymore.
Right.
Yeah, it's a tough question. Go ahead, Gerry.
Your 1 to 10 meeting. So Bill mentioned that he'll have a meeting with his staff, and all of the technicians will want to, make sure that, hey, if I'm saying something's a 10, it's a 10. What is a 10? 10 being the worst things could possibly be. And that you need to have that consistency. In the old days, I was much better at selling when I could actually walk out and see the car. Show me that Warren tie rod end, and they can wiggle it, and boom, I knew right away this is exactly something it's a safety item, I have to sell it. Now a service advisor can see all of that through the digital inspection. So it's important that you get all of your staff on the same page. So a 10 is a 10 or an 8 is an 8. We understand that without having to walk out there and physically see the car. And to maybe comment on Billie Jean's question about, do you estimate everything? I think it's the same thing as going into a doctor's office. Tell me the whole story. If I went into the doctor's office and I'm getting my annual physical, I don't want the doctor to pick and choose what they think is important. Hey, your cholesterol's a little high, but I'm not going to tell you about that, or whatever that might be. I think that all adds to a level of professionalism and adds to consistency. So if the car needed 8 or 10 maintenance items, I'm going to discuss them each and every time to the customer. They're not getting better by themselves.
Yeah, and that team alignment that you keep mentioning, I think Billie Jean asked another follow-up question that's spot on perfect for this conversation. And Bill, in the end, I know your team, you guys have conversations about this. Billie Jean's question here is, we put everything from the DVI on required to recommended, but should every item be priced out or just discussed? How would you handle that question with your team?
We price everything out, right? Every time. Number one, a year ago, when I would do a transmission fluid exchange, right, it would be, the price was one thing, and now a year later, the price of oil has gone through the roof. Any kind of fluids have gone through the roof. So you've got to be constantly updating, right? And I feel like every single time it should be put out there so the customer knows exactly what it's going to cost them. And one of the things that we talk about when we're on the phone with them or when they come to pick it up is, hey, these are some other things you need to have done. What I can tell you has been my experience. When that customer picks that vehicle up, if we can get them committed to coming in the next oil change and getting that transmission fluid, that CVT fluid, the next maintenance item differential, no matter what, if I can get them to commit to 1 or 2 things, they always come back. And when they call and schedule and say, oh, and by the way, they told me I was going to need the transmission fluid flush. Can we add that to it? We don't even have to ask it anymore because we have our staff trained or our customers trained.
Yeah, it's now you give them all the facts. You're not overwhelming it with false urgency. And from a much more informed position with the confidence and trust that they have in your team, they're making more informed buying decisions.
Absolutely. I mean, the conversation opener is always, here's what you brought it in for. Here's what we see that is urgent or a safety issue, and here's what you can plan for down the road or in the future. So I think it's, just having that opening conversation that this is how we do it. And, we want you to be able to plan and look ahead and see, when's it time to say, bye-bye.
And Bill, what's your thoughts on, in this conversation? I always would say, I've got it estimated. I have everything estimated. We're talking about what they brought it in for, and then those urgent matters, those safety items that need to get done today. Leigh Anne, you mentioned some of the maintenance items that need to be done in the future, but I always would like to tell the customer and to take care of everything. The cost would be X. You're never going to sell everything if you don't present everything.
Correct.
And it's a soft sell. It's not a hard sell.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I personally use when I'm talking to a customer is, listen, we're going to talk about the things you brought it in for. We're going to talk about some things that we found. And then when we're all done, we're going to talk about what we think you should do and what you think you should do, because we're always going to make sure the vehicle is safe and reliable, right? And I leave it. So when I say you need brake pads, rotors, and blah, 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 I don't stop there and give a price. I go through the whole process of everything that it needs. If you were to do everything today, Craig, today it's going to be $3,116.47. Now, what would you like to do? We know we have to do the brakes, so let's get that done. What else would you like to do? How about the brake fluid flush? Because that's a part of the maintenance program, right? One thing I can say that we never do, we never teach, is high pressure sales. Yeah. The only time you'll get high pressure sales from any of us in the way that we do things, if it's unsafe, then we're going to have to step up and try and push a little bit.
Yeah. And that's a skill set too, worth communicating. That's really good. And so let's talk about this for a second, because I want to say, like, you guys, man, I could listen to your scenarios and stories probably for a while, and there's actually an opportunity to do so. You guys do have a course coming up in October. It's going to be in Michigan. And for those of you, I'll put it on the map. If you're not familiar with Novi, Michigan, that is over on the east side. So you fly into Detroit, which is a good airport, by the way.
Yeah.
Very good.
We're going to be doing 2 days of training coming up here. We've got some early bird pricing available, but it's going to be Bill, yours truly, Leigh Anne, and also that young lady you mentioned, Skylar, your outstanding customer service rep, is going to be there talking about all of the things that she does as well. And I encourage, I think one of the mistakes often people see service advisor training and they say, well, I want to just send my service advisor or my customer service rep. I want the owners in the room to attend with them. The pricing is super competitive about the cost of a repair order. You can bring your whole shop to it, but it's important, to have everybody on the same page. How many times, us as owners, we maybe go to a conference and we, get a couple of great ideas and then we bring them back and, the staff is like, oh no, not this again, but when you're hearing it from somebody else and you're all together, you're learning a sales system together, it's so much easier to implement in the shop. And as a service advisor, a system like that does something even more important than raising your average ticket, your sales, your profit. All that's important, but it also creates freedom for you.
It creates trust in the team. Techs need to trust their advisor's approach isn't scuzzy, right? And I think that including technicians into advisor training is brilliant. We made the opposite way. Our advisors had to attend technical training too, so they understood the proliferating complexity that was invading the technician's everyday workspace.
I just have to give a shout out because Gerry mentioned it. Skylar is going to be there, and you have to know Skylar. So Auto Service Leader magazine, for those of you that get it, Skylar was the very first non-shop owner featured on the cover of Auto Service Leader.
That's great.
He's the one that has an over 90% capture rate on opportunity calls. Her customer service is outstanding. And the one thing I want to kind of tease the audience with, Skylar was a server at one of our restaurants, and we recognized no auto background whatsoever, but a high level of customer service and reading the customers. And it took us a very long time to convince this wonderful young lady that she wanted to go to work in an auto repair shop. So she finally did, and she is absolutely incredible. Again, systems, procedures, processes, and she is rocking it. I don't think you'll find a better customer service rep out there.
She'll bring all of the energy, so, be amped up.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun event. There's going to be a lot of energy.
We do have a lot of fun. We try and not make it methodical. We try and make it real life stories, real life information. And there's a lot of things that we obviously couldn't talk about in an hour that we put together.
Yeah.
But the best thing about, I can say, after being involved with it for so many years, is that you get the best of both worlds. You get the operations part of it, you get the service advisor part of it. And the thing that makes the biggest difference that to keep your customers coming back is the customer service part of it. Yeah. And I will tell you that our customers love us. And briefly, I will tell you this story. Gerry had mentioned earlier, I have all these wonderful trophies and all these great things for my shop or my business, right? The one thing that I am most proud of, this is absolutely the truth, is I have customers that actually stop in to make appointments. Now, I love my doctor, but I don't go to his office.
Yes.
And we actually have people that will stop in, get a cup of coffee, and make an appointment, or come in and just talk about scheduling something or asking a question. And that happens not once or twice. Oh, right. That's probably 4 to 5 times a month easily.
Mm-hmm. That is a shop as a member of a community.
Yes.
Yeah. Because in case you can't tell, we're very passionate about what we do.
Yep. No, and you guys are engaged in so many brilliant ways to Breaks for Breast, just one outlet of an amazing thing that you've brought, not just to your local community, but truly is well known around the country in the automotive repair industry. So, wow, great work, guys. This was great. And we're probably going to have to talk about getting Skylar on here, or at least on a podcast episode sometime too. Sounds like a fantastic guest. So,
she would love that.
Oh, we would love that. Wonderful. So, hey, if you have more questions for our panel today, we have the email up on the screen. Gerry Frank is Gerry@serviceadvisortraining.com. Bill Hill, Bill at MightyAutoPro.com. And Leigh Anne Best, Leigh Anne, that's Anne, A-N-N-E, at MightyAutoPro.com. And of course, myself, Craig.O'Neill at AutoFlow.com. I really do appreciate if you have any questions, reach out. These are the type of folks you can ask a nice question to. You can expect a nice answer. And I'm just really, really grateful to be engaged in this industry at this level where it is part of my job to connect with and converse with such a great group. I'm so glad Carm put us together on this too. And he's just good. The consummate connector, Carm Capriato.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
The ultimate networking machine.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. No, fantastic. Any final comments here or questions from our audience, please feel free to share. Otherwise, Gerry, anything you want to sign off
You can
with here?
find a lot of information about the upcoming Service Advisor Training Summit. Obviously, you can go to serviceadvisortraining.com and register there and get a lot of information and see some pictures of what we've got going on and what the curriculum is. And I'd love to look forward to seeing everybody there.
Brilliant.
For me, I would say that if you're showing up in Novi, we're going to go over, how to make DVI inspections uniform across all of your technicians. I have 6 technicians, and all of them do it the same way every single time. As I like to tell them, I'd rather have 6 guys do it one way than 6 different guys do it 6 different ways. And I have 2 service advisors who've got to learn everyone's different way. So we're going to touch base on that to show everyone how to do that.
Oh, that's so good. It's how much easier it is for each technician to look at another technician's results if they aren't the same guy in the same car, if everybody's doing it the same way with trust that they're doing it the same way. Yes. Leigh Anne, any final comments?
Yeah, my passion is truly in that phone. If you're not answering your phone correctly, that's the first step. So I'm absolutely passionate about it. I hope to see everybody there in Novi, and we're going to do a lot of training on that.
Nice.
Yeah, increase your car count without spending any more money on marketing or Google AdWords.
Exactly.
Fix your phone.
Yes, we've talked about this with David Boyd. I'm sure you're familiar with him from Call Inbound as well. Yep. This is a topic he's passionate for too. Those marketing dollars get spent and then they get ruined on contact with your employees or staff if they aren't trained well. Oh my goodness. Hey, thank you so much, guys, for being wonderful guests on this, bringing this conversation to our AutoFlow audience, as well as the Automotive Repair Podcast Network audience. And we just really, really hope to see you again next. And I hope to be able to maybe make that little 2-hour drive out of Grand Rapids down there in Novi. We'll see how that schedule follows up. That'd be a ton of fun.
Thanks for the opportunity, Craig. This has been an absolute delight.
I feel like I make new friends every time we do these sort of things, and the prep work ahead of time too was a joy, and the comments from our audience as well here already. This is a fulfilling day.
Thanks so much.
For sure.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon. Thank you,
everyone. Bye, everyone. Hope to see you in Novi.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this conversation. I hope you enjoyed hearing it as much as I enjoyed participating in it. We enjoyed great participation from our audience in that. And hey, we enjoyed participation with you. You can reach out to us here at the show, speakup@craigoneil.net. Remember, listen up on the app to all the shows on the Automotive Repair Podcast Network, Remarkable Results Radio with Carm Capriato, Automotive Field Theory with Matt Fonslow. That's a rebrand, by the way, from Matt Fonslow. It was formerly Diagnosing the Aftermarket A through Z. Now it is Automotive Field Theory. Great title, and I think it indicates a lot of what he theorizes on in his show. He's a great philosopher, that Matt Fonslow. And then Business by the Numbers with Hunt Demarest, who actually was a provider of facts and stats that were used in our webinar. Thank you, Hunt. And then we have the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast with Brian and Kim Walker, who taught me that sometimes webinars also make great podcasts. And the Weekly Blitz with Coach Chris Cotton. Once again, thank you to our sponsors. Thank you, our listeners, for joining us. Now, get out there, listen up, speak up, and build consistency.
You've been listening to Speak Up, Effective Communication with Craig O'Neill on the Automotive Repair Podcast Network. Download our exclusive podcast app at automotiverepairpodcastnetwork.com because the best conversations in the industry start here. Check the show notes for Craig's YouTube channel and email. Let him know what topics you'd like him to speak up about.
Yeah.